My best friend betrayed me 9 years ago, now he wants back in my life. When I was 22, I had a best friend I'll call Mark. We met in high school, and for years he was like a brother to me. We did everything together, late-night drives, parties, even going through our first real heartbreak side by side. If someone asked me back then who I trusted the most in the world, I would have said Mark without hesitation. But 9 years ago, everything fell apart in a way I still haven't fully healed from. The betrayal. At that time, I was dating a girl named Emily. We'd been together for 2 years, and I really thought she was the one. I worked long hours trying to save money for our future, rent, maybe even a house one day. Meanwhile, Emily spent a lot of time hanging out with Mark, because I trusted them both. I thought, what's the harm? They were my two favorite people. Well, turns out, the harm was everything. One night, I came home early from work and found them together. Not just hanging out. Together. In my apartment. In my bed. I can still remember the sound of the door slamming behind me, the way Mark's face went pale, the way Emily started crying and begging me not to overreact. My best friend and my girlfriend, the two people I trusted most, had been betraying me for months. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just walked out, blocked both of them, and cut contact cold. The aftermath. The following months were brutal. I lost not just a partner, but also the person who'd been like family to me. Friends we had in common took sides. Some even told me to get over it because Mark and Emily were happy together now. That cut deeper than anything. I felt like the villain in my own story, as if I was the unreasonable one for not accepting their relationship. But I forced myself to move on. I poured myself into work, into hobbies, into therapy. Slowly, I built a new life. I made new friends. I traveled. I learned to live without the people I once thought I couldn't survive without. And for 9 years, I never heard a word from Mark. The return. Last month, out of nowhere, I got a message request on Facebook. It was from Mark. Hey man, it's been a long time. I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I'd really like to meet up and talk if you're open to it. I stared at that message for a long time. 9 years of silence. 9 years of pretending he didn't exist. And suddenly, he thought he could just walk back into my life. I didn't reply. But a week later, he sent another one. Emily and I broke up years ago. She cheated on me too, if you can believe that. I guess what goes around comes around. I know I screwed up with you. I lost my best friend, and it's the biggest regret of my life. Please, just give me a chance to apologize face to face. I almost laughed when I read it. Not because it was funny, but because it was so pathetic. He thought betrayal could be erased just because time had passed. He thought his own heartbreak would make me sympathetic. The confrontation. Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. I wanted closure. I wanted to look him in the eyes after all these years and see what he had to say. We met at a coffee shop. He looked older, tired, worn down by life. He smiled when he saw me, but I didn't smile back. He launched into this whole speech about how he was young and stupid, how he didn't realize what he had until it was gone, how he regretted it every single day. He even cried at one point. I let him talk. Then I told him exactly what I'd been carrying for 9 years. That he didn't just steal my girlfriend. He stole my trust, my ability to believe that the people closest to me wouldn't stab me in the back. He shattered something in me that took years to rebuild. And when I was done, I said, "You made your choices, Mark. I made mine. And my choice is to never let you back into my life." I stood up and left. I didn't look back. The aftermath, again. Since then, he's tried to message me a couple more times, but I blocked him on everything. I don't need his guilt or his half-baked attempts at redemption. The truth is, I don't hate him anymore. I don't even think about him most days. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. Just because I've healed doesn't mean he gets a second chance. It's been 9 years. I built a life without him, and that's where he'll stay, in the past. After I walked out of the coffee shop, I thought that was it. I thought I'd finally closed the book on Mark for good. But apparently, he didn't get the message. The first ripple. A week later, I got a text from a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to in years. It said, "Hey, I know things between you and Mark are complicated, but he's been reaching out to me. He really wants to make amends. Maybe you should hear him out." It's been almost a decade. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might stick. Almost a decade, and suddenly everyone cares about amends. Where were all these people when I was alone, picking up the pieces after he and Emily destroyed my life? I texted back. "No thanks. That door is closed. Please don't bring him up again." Mark escalates. A few days later, another message appeared in my inbox, this time on Instagram, from a burner account. "I know you blocked me, but I'm not trying to cause problems. I need my friend back. Please. I'm not the same person I was. I can prove it." I didn't respond. Blocked. Then came an email. Then another. He even tried LinkedIn. I half expected him to show up at my job, which made me more anxious than I wanted to admit. The twist with Emily. Here's the kicker, around this time, I got a random message on Facebook from Emily. Yes, that Emily. The woman who helped blow up my entire life 9 years ago. Her message was short. "I heard Mark has been trying to get in touch. Don't believe anything he says. He hasn't changed." I nearly dropped my phone when I saw her name. I hadn't heard a word from her in almost a decade either. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to pretend she didn't exist. But curiosity got the better of me, and I replied. "Why are you warning me? You both made your choices." She responded with a wall of text about how Mark had been manipulative even with her, how he cheated on her multiple times, how he only cared about himself. She said she regretted what happened between us, but that she wanted me to know the truth before I let him back into my life. The irony was almost funny. She was trying to warn me about the guy she cheated on me with. Family weighs in. As if things weren't messy enough, my sister called me one night. She's one of the only family members I've stayed close to over the years. Apparently, Mark had tracked her down on social media and messaged her. "I just want to talk to him. Please tell him I'm not a bad person." My sister was furious. She told him off, but she also asked me a hard question. "Why does he still have this much power over you, 9 years later? If you're really done with him, why are you even meeting him, reading his messages, letting him into your head again?" That stung. Because she was right. I had rebuilt my life. I thought I was strong. But one blast from the past, and suddenly I was 22 again, standing in that doorway, watching my best friend betray me. The breaking point. It all came to a head 2 weeks ago. I walked out of my apartment one morning to find Mark sitting on the steps of my building. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told him where I lived. I still don't know how he found out. He stood up fast, hands raised like he was afraid I'd punch him. "Please, just 5 minutes," he said. His voice was shaky, desperate. Something in me snapped. I told him, loudly, firmly, that if he ever showed up at my home again, I'd call the police. That I wasn't his friend. That I wasn't his savior. That he needed to stop trying to rewrite history. Neighbors were watching. He looked humiliated. But I didn't care. I went back inside and locked the door. Where things stand. Since then, silence. No messages. No visits. I don't know if he finally got the hint, or if he's just regrouping. The truth is, I don't hate him anymore. I don't even think about him most days. But when he forces his way back into my life, he drags all the old wounds with him. And I refuse to bleed for him again. Some betrayals are permanent. Some friendships can't be salvaged. And some people don't deserve the closure they're begging for. When I thought it was finally over, it wasn't. Mark wasn't done. The calm before the storm. After I told him off outside my apartment, things went quiet for a while. 2 whole weeks with no messages, no unexpected encounters, no whispers from mutual friends. For the first time since he resurfaced, I actually started to relax. I thought maybe the humiliation on my front steps had been enough to knock some sense into him. But I should have known better. The wedding incident. One of my closest friends, Daniel, got married last month. I was a groomsman. It was a beautiful, small ceremony, nothing extravagant, just friends and family celebrating. And then, halfway through the reception, I saw him. Mark. He wasn't invited. He wasn't supposed to be there. But there he was, standing near the bar in a suit that didn't quite fit, holding a drink like he belonged. I froze. My stomach dropped. I felt my hands go cold. I immediately went to Daniel, furious. He swore up and down he hadn't invited him. Apparently, Mark found out through someone else in our old circle and decided it would be a good opportunity to talk things out in a positive environment. Positive environment. At my best friend's wedding. The confrontation. I didn't want to cause a scene at Daniel's wedding, but I wasn't about to let Mark crash it. I pulled him aside and demanded he leave. He gave me that same sad, broken expression I'd seen at the coffee shop. I just wanted to show you I could be part of your life again. Look, everyone's happy here. Don't you miss this? Don't you miss us? It was like he couldn't hear me. Like the last 9 years, the betrayal, the pain, the boundaries I set, none of it existed in his mind. I told him to leave, firmly, and when he hesitated, I got security involved. Watching him get escorted out of the venue in front of everyone was surreal. Some people asked me later what had happened, but Daniel backed me up. Still, I spent the rest of the night tense, waiting for him to come back. The fallout. The next day, I woke up to a massive email from Mark. Pages long. It swung between guilt-tripping, "I've been alone for years, you're all I have left," anger, "you're acting like you never made mistakes," and manipulation, "I know you still care, deep down, or you wouldn't react this strongly." I didn't reply. Instead, I saved the email, blocked him again, and started documenting everything. Screenshots, dates, messages. Just in case. Because at this point, it wasn't just about closure anymore. It was about safety. Talking to Emily again. Remember Emily? The ex who betrayed me with him 9 years ago. After the wedding incident, she reached out again. This time she called me directly. She told me she wasn't surprised. She said when they broke up, Mark spent months trying to worm his way back into her life too. When she finally blocked him everywhere, he stalked her social media, even showed up at her work once. "Be careful," she said. "He doesn't let go. He doesn't accept no." Hearing that shook me. Because I realized this wasn't just about me. This was who he is. My decision. So I made a choice. I filed a formal harassment report with the police. I don't know if it will go anywhere. He hasn't physically harmed me, and the law can be tricky about persistence versus stalking, but I wanted a paper trail. I also told my landlord and the building security to keep an eye out. And I warned friends not to give him any information about me, no matter what sob story he tells. Maybe it's extreme. But after 9 years, after all the boundaries I've set, after him crashing a wedding of all places, I don't trust him. Not anymore. Final thoughts, for now. I don't feel fear every day. I don't let him control my life. But I've realized something important: forgiveness doesn't mean giving someone access. Closure doesn't mean letting them back in. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is protect your peace at all costs, even if it means turning someone you once called a brother into a stranger. That's what Mark is to me now. A stranger. Really thought the wedding incident would be the end. I thought the humiliation of being escorted out in front of dozens of people would finally break through the delusion in Mark's head. But if the last 9 years have taught me anything, it's that Mark doesn't understand boundaries. He doesn't take no for an answer. And he doesn't know when to quit. The breaking point. It started small again. Anonymous numbers texting me things like, "You're making a mistake. You'll regret pushing me away. We're supposed to be brothers." At first, I ignored them. I blocked and moved on. But then, one night, I came home to find an envelope taped to my apartment door. No stamp, no mailing address, just my name scrawled across the front. Inside was a letter, written in Mark's messy handwriting. Pages of it. He wrote about how he'd been punished enough by losing me, how I was his last chance at redemption. He even wrote that if I couldn't forgive him, he didn't see the point in living anymore. That part scared me. Because it wasn't just manipulation anymore, it was a threat, whether directed at me or himself. The escalation. I decided I needed to take this seriously. I gave the letter to the police to add to my harassment report. They told me they'd keep it on file, but unless he actually harmed me or trespassed again, their hands were tied. Then, 2 days later, it happened. I came home late from work and found him waiting outside my building. Not sitting quietly this time, pacing, frantic, eyes wide like he hadn't slept in days. The moment he saw me, he rushed forward. "Why are you doing this to me?" he shouted. "Why can't you just let me back in? I've paid for what I did, isn't that enough?" I froze, keys in my hand, heart pounding. Neighbors started poking their heads out. I told him to leave. He wouldn't. He kept ranting, his voice cracking between anger and desperation. When he took a step closer, I dialed 911 in front of him. That finally made him back off. He started crying, shouting something about me being cruel, and then he ran. The aftermath. The police showed up minutes later. I gave them everything: the messages, the letter, the incident outside my apartment. They took statements from neighbors who saw him. This time, they didn't just make a note. They issued me a temporary restraining order. It's not permanent yet, I'll have to go to court for that, but it's something. If he contacts me again, if he comes near me again, it's a criminal offense. Talking to Emily, again. After the incident, I called Emily. Not because I wanted to reconnect, but because I knew she'd been through the same cycle with him. When I told her what happened, she wasn't surprised. She said, "He did the same thing to me when I finally cut him off. He thinks people are possessions. He doesn't understand that love and friendship aren't things you can demand." Hearing that weirdly gave me closure. Because for years, I'd wondered, was I too harsh? Did I overreact back then? No. I didn't. Mark is who he is. And I finally see that clearly. Where I stand now. Right now, I'm waiting for the court date to make the restraining order permanent. Part of me feels sad it came to this. This was someone I once considered family. Someone I would have taken a bullet for. But the person I loved as a friend doesn't exist anymore. Maybe he never did. Maybe I just didn't want to see the truth back then. Either way, I've made my peace. He doesn't get to write my story anymore. Final reflection. 9 years ago, Mark betrayed me with Emily. That betrayal shattered my world. I rebuilt it. Now, 9 years later, he tried to come back and destroy the life I created without him. But this time, I didn't let him. And I never will again. The court date came. Mark showed up, looking smaller than I remembered, not physically, but like all the chaos he thrived on had finally drained out of him. I told my side. Calm. Clear. With evidence. The restraining order was made permanent. When it was over, he tried to catch my eye. I didn't give him the satisfaction. Walking out of that courtroom, I felt lighter than I have in years. Not because he apologized, not because he understood, but because I finally, truly, closed the door. Mark is just someone I used to know. Nothing more. Nothing less. And I'm finally free.